Yes, welcome everyone. Of course, if you're watching this live, that means well, it can mean a lot of things, but one thing it definitely means it's Wednesday at high noon Eastern time, which is always time for the High Noon Hemp Show. As you can see right there, episode 306. We've done this 306 times, if you can believe that. I'm sure you do because you've seen a lot of them. So I'm sure you're an avid fan of the High Noon Hemp Show. Pancakes can be found in many places. Of course, if you are on the Facebook, check out the Temptation Beach Facebook page. If you're on X, check out Temptations. If you're on the old YouTube, Jedi Hemp, I kind of vaguely hear the sirens heralding our arrival that they do every month, just for us. No other reason that they allow the sirens go off. Just to announce it's a new month of High Noon Hemp shows right here on whatever platform you watch on, of course. I'm Center Jesus. I do various things on the interwebs that you can search out if you feel like it. He is Beach. You can see where he is. He's at the Temptations at 600 Township Avenue in Cincinnati. Got the girls behind him. Beach, how are things this week in the world of Temptations?
Crazy filled. It's been a mad week. I'll get to that in a little while. Welcome everyone to the High Noon Hemp Show. That's right, they're setting off the alarms in the high state area to let everybody know what we're doing. And I'm calling this this is the Independence Day episode. Happy Independence Day to everyone that celebrates that. Um, Stoner, do you know what else today is?
I have a vague idea, Beach, but I feel like you're going to tell me. What day is it, Beach?
Hemp Day! That's right. Every Wednesday for the High Noon Hemp Show is Hemp Day!
Hashtag Hemp Day.
And remember, folks, the FDA has not evaluated the show for safety or efficacy. Do not forget that. That being said, let's go ahead and put our peace signs on our hearts. I pledge allegiance to the hemp fields of America and to the soil in which it is planted. One seed under the sun with responsibility, sustainability, and thrivability for all. All right. Well, as I mentioned, Independence Day. Hemp has a lot to do with Independence Day. If not, I don't know that without hemp, we would be celebrating Independence Day in the year of 1776. I was just having this discussion. Okay, so the sails that brought the ships over, the rigging on the sails that brought the ships over, and then they also used hemp with tar and made like a caulk to go in between the wood beams of the ships. Without all of that, we would not have had, Columbus would not have discovered, I say that with asterisks, he did not, he discovered it for the Europeans, okay? That is true. He did discover it for the Europeans, all right? But the fact of the matter is, most of the shipping that went on at that time would not have happened without hemp. I came up with the idea that if we did not have hemp as a plant, then there's a good chance that the Europeans may not have even discovered for themselves the Americas until maybe like 150 years ago, like when we were be able to build a boat out of steel. All right. They would have had to have come up with a different, I say that, all right, if they would have used, say, cotton or flax for their sails and their ropes, they would have had to carry an extra supply of those. Like, you'd have to have an extra supply of sails. I don't care what they say. I mean, it deteriorates quickly. Hemp actually retains its strength or becomes stronger when it's wet, whether it's salt water, fresh water, or whatever. That is, again, one of the principles. So when you think about the fact that hemp is 4 to 6 times stronger than cotton, that means you'd have to have a sail that was 4 to 6 times thicker than like one piece of cotton, whatever that means. But so it definitely had a lot with the Europeans, or everything to do with the Europeans discovering America, the Americas. And of course, we brought hemp with us. There was no hemp here. All right, so we bring hemp and start growing hemp here. The most interesting fact, and again, this is how vital hemp was to the revolution. You've heard this before if you watched the show at all or have heard me speak. But Thomas Jefferson illegally smuggled tons, like 200 tons, I forget what it was altogether, a lot of hemp seed out of Russia through Britain, which is where it made it illegal. Okay, so when he was bringing it through Britain, at the time it was illegal to um, export hemp seed to the United States. And so, because, they were trying to choke us out of it. And so Jefferson smuggles this hemp in, um, which then boosts our Navy defenses. So we catch them, on the water, and seriously improves our chances of independence. The Declaration of Independence, the drafts, not the final. The final was done on some special parchment paper, um, which is interesting. But the drafts were written on hemp paper. So that was all part of that. Then, the flag comes along after Independence Day. I'm pretty sure. I don't know when, actually. I should know that. Actually, maybe Betsy Flag comes up with the flag just right before Betsy Ross. I'm sorry. Comes up with the flag right before we actually do declare independence. It's right around that time period. Now, of course, those were hemp. The rumor has always been that if you have a flag with less than 37 stars on it, and it's not made out of wool, it's made out of hemp. And so, um, now we make them out of synth plastic and whatever. I should say China does. No, there are American-made flags now. Huh? Anyway, and so that's where, honestly, hemp played a massive role in the taking of the Americas, which they did. And they didn't. They only discovered them for themselves, and then they took them from the indigenous people. Um, Unfortunately, they brought those slaves from Africa using ships with all that hemp on it, which was wrong, wrong, wrong. Change things in time. We can. And so, I've always said that. I've never talked about the importance of hemp to the Europeans in America without mentioning the fact that it turned out really bad for the indigenous and the enslaved. Um, and so, but that's the history of it. That's the history of it. It has an amazing history, and that brief amount of time would look a lot different. Those couple 100 years, 200 years, whatever. Wasn't long. 150 years or so, 200 years. Right up until we stopped using sailing ships to get around the world. That's definitely a couple hundred years, 300, 400, whatever. So, that's the history. It did not work out well once again, and I'm a believer in the fact that unless you are indigenous, you are an immigrant. We are all immigrants. I support that theory. Don't get me wrong. You know, I am as patriotic as anyone. Just come and try to take my shit, and I'll show you how much I love America. Um, and so, you know, it is what it is. So there you have it. Hemp and Independence Day. Um, and starting with the product Spotlight, one from my door. I'm sorry. Yeah, one from my door. It is one from my door, four from the store. I reversed that for some reason because I am independent.
Right.
That's why I celebrate Independence Day, and I call it Independence Day. You should celebrate all kinds of independence. The first one here is the Hemptations R brand CBD tincture, and this is for the pets, or possibly you if you have anxiety around people and parties and fireworks. You feel free to use it as well. I mentioned it last week, as I want to mention it again. Um, we used it on Josie, and I can't believe that I forgot to do this. I kind of blocked it out of my memory, but Josie passed last week. Um, and I meant to do it in memory of her because she was a hemp dog. I listed all the items. I even said that, she may become part of the records that we have set with hemp. That she may have been a dog that had more hemp stuff than any other dog has ever had. Now, it definitely wouldn't be as hard to supply your dog up with everything she had. Um, but I will say she had a lot of hemp stuff in her life. But we used the CBD for her fireworks, mostly thunderstorms. That's how we knew it works for fireworks, is because we used it for her on the thunderstorms. So if you've got a pet that's going to get anxious and go try to dig a hole in your corner of your room, um, maybe try some CBD. You can drop it on their treats. You can put it right in their mouth. I always recommend, about 20 minutes, 30 minutes before you really want it to be effective is when you want to do it for a pet. Unless you can get it to hold it under their tongue for a minute, and I don't think you can. uh, so that's what we did for those type of things. And so there you have it. The next one is the drinks. These are for you. You know, these are for you to take to your Independence Day celebration, wherever it may be. Um, we have everything from 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams to a 25 milligram hemp THC, which is the exact same THC you would get in a drink anywhere else. And of course, the hemp drinks are all the rage. And they're luckily, um, here in Ohio for sure, nothing changed, so we don't have to worry about those. But take you a little. I would say take a 4-pack of those Stay Cools to a party, but that's 100 milligrams of THC. So it's, just one for the casual party to spread out over the day is probably good. Next, how about a little flag leaf products? These are Wink and Son. So that's a Wink and Son backpack and a Wink and Son wallet. If you want to get a matching uh, hemp leaf flag design on your goods, there you have it. We love our Wink and Son. They were just hit with huge floodings. Their shop in West Virginia got hit. If you're anywhere now around the West Virginia Ohio border, go check out Wink and Son. Help them out. Any way you can with the purchase here and there. They just really went through some stuff with some serious flooding in their shops. So check that out, and you can come here and get this backpack and/or wallet, or at possibly the new location. Check Google daily if you're going to come to Temptations, because we will literally be at the new spot, parking lot, ground floor, It's going to be glorious. But we will be there officially by Monday, if not officially by Friday.
Right. Keep an eye on the
Phone
Facebook
number
people.
phone number online will remain the same. So if you need to call that, call that. You know, we're on 3844 Spring Grove Avenue is the new address. It's a very, very cool spot. I cannot wait to. I'm excited. I'm not excited to move, but I'm excited to move there. And the last one, if you're going out for your Independence Day and you're still worried about these things, we do still have masks. We've got our Hemptations brand masks, actually made by Planet Everywhere Manufacturing. Those, man, I'm not positive, but I want to say those might have been even Weekend Sun hemp masks. I forgot to check the label on those, but I think that they were doing them, and I think I did get some masks from them back in the day. So anyway, if you're still worried about those things, hemp is proven scientifically antimicrobial, bacterial. Okay, um, and so it's going to help keep the stuff you don't want away from you, and it doesn't carry it. And so that's why, again, I was talking about this just a week or two on the show, that the fact that all nursing scrubs, doctor scrubs, all hospital doctor's office uniforms should be made out of hemp. Again, there's a whole market for that, and again, it's a proven fact. And the last one is just one of a multitude. I have a couple of these hemp flags, different sizes, flags made out of hemp. This is my oldest one. This hemp flag is probably 25 years old. You can see how the blue is faded, super faded, because it was hanging in the window in O'Brienville for I don't know how many years, 20. And then I actually repainted using fabric paint the red stripes. And so I'm afraid of what kind of paint I might have been, what the base of that paint was, because it's been saying super bright. It hasn't faded at all. And again, that was how good the dyes were, eco-friendly the dyes were originally. Is it faded pretty quickly, and that's the sign of a better dye for the planet.
Yeah.
The longer that something that has been dyed stays its color, the worse the dye was for the planet. That's just obviously natural dyes are the best. They're just the best, and I love them. All right, well, there you have it. 4 from the store, 1 from my door on this Independence Day episode. Hempy Independence Day on the High Noon Hemp Show. And now,
of course, brings us to the greatest segment in internet history. And normally in this segment, we've come to the tradition of talking about, of course, all of the hemp records that Beach has set and currently holds, and how the Guinness World Records seems to go out of their way to completely ignore acknowledging any of these records or caring one iota. So usually what I'll do is I'll go to their X account and find some stupid record that they have, and we'll post a picture and we'll make fun of it about how stupid they are. But today, although it is a dumb record, in honor of Josie, we do have a dog-related record I wanted to play the video of, also because I don't know if people know what footsie leg weaves are. But this is the fastest time for 2 dogs to complete 10 footsie leg weaves, 13.83 seconds, achieved by Olga Jones and her 2 dogs, Simba and Bonnie. That's really what they are. One dog with another. It's very complicated.
13.83 seconds.
Dogs have no idea that they just set a Guinness World Record, but that's okay. The lady's excited. The dog just wants treats. There you go. If you were wondering, first of all, what footsie leg weaves were and who holds that record, well, now you know. And that says they, of course, ignore Beach's many hemp records. But you know who does not ignore Beach's hemp records? Us, because we care very much. We care so much that every week for almost 7 years, we have chronicled just Beach's wardrobe and what he's able to do with that wardrobe, how many records he's able to set with that wardrobe. But today, as you can see by Beach's shirt, if you see Beach out and about today, you will see him coming from a mile away. He is bright. He is Beach. This is the Beachwear segment when I ask the question, what are you wearing, Beach?
Here I am in my lovely. It's true, this is like party attire. I didn't go red, white, and blue this year, but I did go party attire, kind of,
Right.
For this Independence Day episode. On top there, I have an officially licensed Trailblazers Mitchell & Ness hat. I was talking about my officially licensed stuff last night as well at the medical marijuana meetup. So that's kind of why I wore this one. It just says Blazers because, that's fitting for a hemp hat. And then this is, just so you know, an official polo sport. So all polos are called polos because of polo. And this is actually made by Polo. Ralph Lauren.
Wow.
On that polo shirt there. That you can see, as Stoner Jesus mentioned, from like 7 miles away. My shorts, those are Patagonia. Those are American hemp. So they're not 100% American hemp, but they do have American hemp grown here in America in them. And so we'll I'm almost sure that Patagonia was, in fact, the first large clothing company to do a full line of clothing with at least some American hemp. Now, I need to go back and check and see what they've come up with in the last couple of years, because these are a couple of years old. And so hopefully they're incorporating more and more American-made hemp into their hemp line of clothing. And once again, promoting the idea of growing hemp for fiber here. As you well know my opinion on that if you watch the show at all. Got my Green Springs Technology pen in the pocket of those Patagonia shorts. Underneath is some Satori briefs, as well as Satori socks. And then my sneakers there are Circa Skate for Cancers. Those are Circa brand, the Skate for Cancer version. Of course, made out of hemp. There you have it. Hemp, head to toe, every day is what I do. Okay, folks, just so you know, you get to see what it is at least one day a week here on the High Noon Hemp Show. What are you wearing, Beach segment? There you have it. And now, because I spent so much time on this trailer, if you watched last week, wink, wink, and I really liked it, let's go ahead and check out the High Noon Hemp Show, A Love Story trailer. And we'll be back with the news. And maybe some
really cultivating a party atmosphere today here on the High Noon Show.
What's that? I think can't hear you now.
Yeah. Am I here? Oh, hello.
Hello.
There we go.
Yeah.
I'm here. Okay. I
That's
say
it.
we're really cultivating a party atmosphere here today on the High Noon Hemp Show.
That's right. It's all about the hemp love, folks.
You need like a strobe light or something there. Really.
I could, there is a blinking light somewhere in the building. I should have brought it in.
There you go.
Does this effect work? Should I just do the news?
Good. Very realistic. It's like, is that CGI?
Well, let's keep with this party atmosphere. And I want to go ahead and show you a picture of Brad Pitt here. He was on the Jimmy Fallon show recently, and they were out playing disc golf or throwing frisbee or something. And just so you know, that's a hemp shirt made by Young Maven that Brad Pitt is wearing. Now, I know the cool thing is that I listen to influencers that I've never heard of, but please be influenced by Brad Pitt and go get yourself a hemp shirt, just any hemp shirt. Just be like, I'm like Brad Pitt. I wear hemp. That's what I gotta do. I'm like Brad Pitt every day in a hemp t-shirt. I might have to go find my one tie-dye hemp t-shirt. I have over 200 shirts. Just so you know, I have one tie-dye.
Seems like a missed opportunity.
That kind of shows you my whole general attitude about tie-dye. And I don't, again, I suppose we should add that to the list of myths about Beach, owner of Hemptations, is that, he wears a lot and loves tie-dye, because I don't. And I don't know if people really say that or not, but that goes on that list of people thinking that I love the Grateful Dead. I do not. I don't dislike them, but I'm a Beatles kid. Anyway, I don't know why you can't be both. I don't know why I said that. I've just never really been into jam bands. I don't know why. I would have liked to have seen them live at least once back in the day. I had a buddy who was, he went around the country in the summer following the Grateful Dead. He was lucky because that was right before Jerry passed. So, anyway, so in Ohio we're good. Everything basically stalled out in the bill in Ohio, so that's good. The bad thing is, all right. So right now in the federal government, okay, there is a subcommittee, and the subcommittee is on agriculture, rural development, food and drug, and related agencies. There is this bill, okay? They just voted on. I think they just voted on sending it to someone else to see if it then gets sent on to be voted on. I don't know. I really don't know how this actually works with these subcommittees, but they vote on these bills, I guess, and then I think that someone maybe has to sponsor it. I'm guessing that's how it may work. I should know. Maybe I should go through I'm just a bill. I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. I don't know the rest of the words, but I remember seeing it every Saturday. Anyway, I should know these things. But this bill literally has the potential to destroy the entire hemp cannabinoid industry. All of it. CBD, CBG, CBN, THC. They're going after all the cannabinoids. Whether they get you high, so to speak, or they don't, whatever it is. And so, I don't even, now they're already, just so you know, the farm bill that's sitting on a table, and I don't know why that's stalled now. And it's probably because the Republicans don't want to spend the money in the places that want to spend the money in the farm bill, and so they're going to fight about it instead of actually discussing a farm bill that should be bipartisan. Why do we need to have political issues related to the Department of Agriculture? It's the most. It's just ridiculous. Okay, and it's all because there's so much money that's given out by the government for doing nothing in certain places. They're called subsidies. And I think that it's a ridiculous way to look at the farm issue. We need to promote actual farming, clean farming, um, in the entire country. Um, and again, instead of paying someone not to grow something for whatever reason, and I don't understand, I honestly have never understood. No one could ever explain to me how this is supposed to be a good thing for farming or American citizens when it comes to subsidies on farming and goods and farming industry and agriculture. Um, you know, Provide insurance in case something goes bad, which they do. You can now get crop insurance on hemp. Um, but, we need to. I don't understand why we don't promote the overgrowing of every crop that we can grow. I mean, we export a huge amount of agriculture, just so you know. Huge amount of our agriculture is exported out of the country. Um, which also, I don't, I'm not sure that I completely understand either, other than, if we're growing so much, then that's good that we have this overage and we don't need it here. Um, but when it comes to almost like nutritional food product, I mean, we should be encouraging it to be all done here, which is why we need to be growing more hemp for grain here. Uh, but again, I don't understand. Okay, I get it. Agriculture is on the subcommittee list. Okay, but then you have rural development on the subcommittee list. Okay, so now taking hemp away from the rural development is a ridiculous idea. The only thing that gets done in rural environments is farming now. And again, what is this rural development? So they can go and develop housing in rural? No, we need to be promoting the growing of crops in the rural America. That's where all the crops have always been grown. Again, it's just so backwards. And then, of course, they're also food and drug. And they're coming at it from the food and drug aspect, not the agricultural aspect. And so, again, the food and drug aspect of this subcommittee is literally taking away from the agricultural aspect of the subcommittee. It's like within this subcommittee and what they're trying to do, the priorities are whacked, honestly. Um, and I also just love how they throw in that related agencies. What does that mean? Again, I never trusted what they did as a whole. I don't know. I have no party affiliation. Okay, I'm against ignorance in the government, and there's always been so much of it that I just stay away from the government as much as I can. And so it drives me batty. But this is hemp related, and so I have to pay attention. It's the only politics I pay attention to, for the most part. Stay out of the rest of it. I try to stay out of the rest of it. All right, and that's just my political view on everything is stay out of it, except for hemp. I have to know hemp politics. I report on hemp politics every week on the show. Um, and this is just more proof that our political system, our federal political system, is so backwards. And I agree with it. Again, and it's not about money; it's about policy. I mean, you can try to save as much money as you want with Doge, but that doesn't solve the issue of our government's problem with the average American. They are not looking out for you and me and Stoner Jesus over there and the guy next door. They're not looking. I mean, don't be fooled. I mean, are your ambitions to work in a manufacturing plant in the United States? Because I like like the stuff they're trying to do to make Americans wealthy again, which should be a goal. Make the middle class, middle class making something to strive for, I suppose. I don't know, but none of the young kids. Again, it's just anyway. Not my issue. Grow more hemp. Let's give them hemp jobs. Let's manufacture hemp in the United States. Yes, I'm for it. And this will work with hemp because we don't have to move our manufacturing plant from China to the United States to make our hemp goods. We just need to build hemp manufacturing plants. So it's ripe for the new technology to specifically build them here. So that in 10 years, we're exporting the hemp that we don't need. Whether it's hemp food or hemp material, fiber, um, the hempcrete herd, animal bedding herd, whatever that is. We have the opportunity here, not like most of the rest of the that has been growing and using hemp. The United States of America was the last industrialized country in the world to legalize hemp. How ridiculous is that? But we were the last. 2013. Okay, that farm bill. Now we have the opportunity to basically start fresh. Again, we don't have to figure out how the Germans or the French or any of those, do what they do, or the Chinese or the Russians or the Ukrainians. Um, we just need to find the best way to turn the grain into food product and build that plant. We need to find the best way to turn that fiber into clothing or material, build that plant. The best way to use that herd and all those things. And of course, that's just bagging it up. But there are companies that are making that clean herd, and it's naturally dust free, which is another reason why it works so well for animal bedding. Yeah, and that's those little pieces. What's called shiv in the rest of the world, we call herd in the hemp world, and we basically have made that word to describe that product, which is part of the stalk. When you break it, when you get that fiber away, what's left is little pieces of the stalk. Again, that's what we put in the hempcrete. That's what we can use for animal bedding. Um, that is really what we would use most more than likely in the paper industry again, because that's when paper making was invented by the Chinese. That's what they did. Um, and again, you soak it, you let it soak in really good into kind of a slurry, and then you just lay it out flat and you let it dry, and that's how paper came about. Obviously, we can tweak all of that, and I really feel like that because of the way they use wood pulp for paper, that I don't think it would be too hard to maybe take that same machinery and start making hemp paper. It's just another one of those things that we can start fresh here in the United States. And again, if you've got money and you want to make a hemp product that can change everything in one particular industry, then focus on 100% hemp paper. Or, right now I do a small amount of hemp to a large amount of recycled, which is better than not. Um, But if we could go back to a 100% hemp paper, I don't know if we could do that and it'd be printer friendly, so to speak. That's the goal. And there are paper companies in America that are um, making hemp paper, and so we just need more and more and less wood pulp. Either way, however that has to happen. Now, if there's got to be a little bit of wood pulp still, then that's better than not. But the goal is 100% hemp, just so we can just stop cutting down trees for paper. All right, we can make hemp wood, 2x4s and 4x4s, and hemp wood paneling, flooring. It exists. Hemp wood in Kentucky makes those products now. So if we really focused on that, and again, we can't have enough of these manufacturers. We have one company in the United States making hemp wood products. Um, you know, we can have 10, and everybody can still be doing it. These guys are the guys are the game changer. And I am almost surprised, and I wouldn't doubt if sometime soon I'm going to find out that they're not opening hemp wood out in Colorado or wherever, and then focusing on using that hemp out there to make hemp wood, and this hemp here to make hemp wood. Maybe South Dakota, because they grow more hemp in South Dakota than anywhere else. But that being said, the goal has always been. I've been saying it for 30 years. The goal is to stop cutting down trees, make everything we can that we've been making out of trees out of hemp again. Maybe not hemp wood, but hemp paper. Was hemp paper for 2,000 years or so before we looked at the forest and said, well, we have an endless supply of trees. Let's just cut them all down and make paper out of it. And that paper was crap when they came up with it. So, it's terrible, terrible. I just hope this, whatever this bill is, and I'll look more into it, doesn't make it anywhere. Either way. If you're in Alabama, stop smoking your hemp. It is now illegal. And of course, there is instantly a lawsuit. So the state is getting sued over this smoking ban. You cannot have the flower in Alabama. And again, most of these get overturned because this is actually an anti-consumerism issue. All right, which basically consumerism laws say that if you're allowed to have something in this form, then it's legal in all its forms. You can't say, once again, that um, whatever it is. I can't really come up with a reference because hemp is so unique in this situation. But basically, because all hemp is legal, and that's basically what it is all hemp is legal. It's federally legal. If it's legal in the state of Alabama, then you can't say, yes, you can have it in this form, but no, you can't have it in this form, even though this is a form of hemp. In fact, this is the original form of the hemp. And we're going to tell you can't have that. You have to adulterate it in some way before you're allowed to have it. Which, again, is what a ridiculous way to treat nature. It's like, yeah, you can have this nature, but you have to change it from its normal-looking nature self into something else. You can put it in a vape pen and inhale it that way, but you can't smoke it. And once again, I want to reiterate this by saying, yes, our lungs are not meant to have smoke in them, but no, the government has yet to prove, or medicine, I should say the medical world has yet to prove, that smoking cannabis has ill effects on the lungs. All right? No lung doctor would tell you that cannabis caused lung cancer. Um, and so, prove it's unsafe. before you try to save us from it. And I can't, I've said that hundreds of times about hemp. It's like, or cannabis, period. Prove it's unsafe, and then protect us from it, is what I really should say. But until you don't prove that it's unsafe, leave it alone. Whoa. Just because you woke up and you heard this stuff makes people happy and whatever, they enjoy it, so you think you should take it away from them, that's not your right. That's no other human's right. But that's where we are in the world. And again, because it's the few. It's the few, okay, that rule us. And the few are still so very ignorant. They refuse to learn the truth. I mean, like you think that cannabis is unsafe. Why don't you have a town hall and invite only cannabis users? Talk to them. Ask them if they've been to the doctor with ailments. Again, get to the truth of it, not just the assumptions of it. And again, I was talking about this last night too, and I still believe this because look at it now. I truly believe that the cannabis propaganda of the 30s was the most effective propaganda ever in the history of time. Because it is continuing to promote those ignorant ideas from almost 100 years ago. And again, I mean, kudos to all that propaganda, because it really was amazing. And, it's taken 50 years to have a viable debate about, why it should be legal and all that. And we're still in a place where it's not. And it's really, and again, we're not there with hemp. Hemp is legal. Hemp is not on the controlled substance list. But until hemp is as easy to grow for a farmer as soy or cotton, and when I say easy as, I mean you go buy your seed, you put your seed in the ground, you pay attention to it if it needs water every once in a while. At the end of the year, you cut your field down and you sell it to someone. Not, I gotta buy a license, I have to have my plants tested, and all this other rigoram that you have to go through. The plant is still demonized, even though it's legal. And this does nothing to promote the average farmer to want to grow hemp, to switch to hemp. North Carolina, watch out for HB 328. If you're in North Carolina, get some information on this. Call the people. I didn't see too much about what they're trying to do, and I think what it is so this bill all started about keeping, and I reported on this before a month or so ago, but it was all started to keep vape pens and hemp products out of schools. Okay. Logical. I mean, I cannot argue that. Kids don't need vape pens at school. I'm for that. Um, Keeping hemp out of the school is a gray area, because I think that if it's CBD, there shouldn't be an issue with it. If it's CBN, CBG, shouldn't be an issue with it. Those should be totally acceptable if the student's parents believe that they need to be using CBD or CBN. I mean CBD, whatever it may be. at some point during the day to help them with anxiety or whatever. Um, I've always said obviously the parents should do their research, but there should not be age restrictions on CBD. Um, and again, I feel like it should definitely be up to the parents, just like it is, in Ohio by law. It's up to parents to decide what they want their kids to do. Um, so anyway, I don't know, but apparently this bill that started as trying to keep vapes and hemp out of schools is now turned into like this attack on hemp, period, for adults and whatnot. So if you're in North Carolina, find out what's going on there. Make sure they don't sneak something in this bill, um, one way or another. Okay, how about some Manitoba Super Seed oatmeal? Um, you know, there is Nature's Path has hemp oatmeal and has had hemp oatmeal for a long time. Now Manitoba, uh, I'm kind of surprised it almost took them this long to come up with the super seed oatmeal. They've been in the hemp game for so long, and they are one of the leading suppliers of hemp hearts and hemp protein powder, um, and I'm trying to think of what their other. I can't believe I can't remember what their other big product is. But they're huge. They're in Canada, um, and and they're massive. And I am almost surprised that they don't go. I'm surprised that they don't have like a Manitoba chip and some other things because they they know hemp is great and they make great hemp food products. I think hemp seed oil is the other. I'm pretty sure they offer a hemp seed oil as well. Um, I'm not positive on it. If you're in the United States and you want hemp seed, I will always say Victory Hemp. Victory Hemp. Find Victory Hemp and work with them. They were, they are to me the original new school hemp grain, hemp heart providers. They've been around for, I don't know, at least 6 years, I think. Um, I met up with them, and we used to have Victory Hemp on the shelves, and then they stopped doing small bags. They had such a demand for bulk hemp, which 100% makes sense. They have probably a huge demand for bulk hemp now because they're one of the leading suppliers in the United States of it. Um, and so, yet again, another industry that is ripe for the pickings for anyone. You know, there's multiple states around the country that could use hemp seed processors, packaging, and all that stuff. Because I'm sure that Victory Hemp was, they're happy to have the large scale market. I think, no doubt about it. But there's once again room for a lot of people to get involved, and it's not going to hurt Victory Hemp's bottom line. Like, they know what they're doing. Uh, so yet another industry that we need to promote more and more of. Even if you want to process that seed into whatever you want to process it to, and encourage one of the big makers of food to make something out of it, then that's what I would do. I would go after Kellogg or whoever and be like, what can we hemp cereal? I don't know. There's has so much potential to be made into food. Uh, granola bars, things like that. So again, it's endless. It's endless. The food products that we can make that would benefit humanity and benefit the food companies because they'd be providing a healthier, better food to the constituents. And the fact of the matter is most Americans buy the foods that are on the shelf, and they don't consider how bad they are for them. And I get it. I mean, it's a money issue. It's a to me, it's a lifestyle issue. I mean, if you grow up eating these foods, then of course you're going to go to the grocery store and eat these foods, and you're not. I mean, they've always been on the shelves. They've always been there, and so the trust in them, because naturally, none of them on their own are unsafe. It's the accumulation of all of it that becomes unhealthy. Whether it's the fact that a lot of our fruits and vegetables, they've lost their nutrients that are vital to us in the commercialization of farming. And that happened in the 80s, in my opinion. Um, and when that became what it is now, once again, none of those foods are unsafe. But if you have a diet of all those foods, that's unhealthy. And again, we know that there are certain foods that we eat every day. Well, I don't know if people do. White bread has no nutritional value. People that eat it every day, do they think they're getting something out of it? They probably do, but they're not. I mean, there are a lot of foods that have corn has no nutritional value to the human body. We eat a lot of it. We consume a ton of it. It's no nutritional value. Is it unsafe? No. Is it unhealthy? One would argue no. But it's not healthy either. That's the difference. And it's easy to say, well, the food's not unhealthy, it's not unsafe, so people should eat it. We should be able to provide that to the consumers, Beach. It's not about that. It's about whether it's healthy or not. And all food should be healthy. And we're moving, the shining light, the tiny little shining light in what's going on in the government is we're actually now taking steps to make food healthier, which should really be the process of the FDA to begin with. The FDA should have two jobs, and that is assuming liability for the safety of foods by making it say GRAS, which is generally regarded as safe. All right? But they should also have the requirement saying, okay, when did this food hit the shelves? When did we say this food was healthy? And everything artificial, I think, should be gone. We don't need artificial coloring. We don't need artificial flavoring. We don't. We can live without both of those things. All right? What does this then do? It promotes us to grow more natural things for flavoring. Maybe even to grow more natural things for coloring if you think your Coca-Cola needs to be brown, which is ridiculous. They add caramel coloring to Coca-Cola to make it brown because for some reason, maybe originally it was always brown from the roots of the natural, but I don't know. But it's some kind. Why can't it just be clear? Why can't the drinks in the coolers just say what flavor they are? They're all clear, but it says on there grape, orange, whatever. And when you see that, you know that it's going to taste like orange and it's flavored with natural flavoring. All right, instead of buying orange juice at the market, and it's like 10% original orange juice. I mean, how they make orange juice disgusts me because it's a scam. It's like they take it all and they move it and then they dilute it, and it's just so ridiculous. If you drink orange juice with pulp in it. That's all I can say. Whether you like it or not, it's just a better version because it's less processed and filtered and all that stuff. Anyway, so you get I want all foods to be healthy. I want to add help to all foods that we can to make hemp food healthier. But again, I've always had an issue with all the dyes. And again, and it's a matter of looking back and seeing how long ago was something approved to be safe to humans, and should we reevaluate that or just figure out whether we need it or not? And we don't. We do not need artificial coloring, and we do not need artificial flavorings in our foods and drinks. We can. All of these industries can figure out how to either make these flavors naturally or make these colors naturally or don't. Just don't. All right. Now this is interesting. All right, so I have to show this card. This is a new study showed that the trace amounts of THC found in the milk and the meat of cows fed, and they say it's hemp. Okay, but I don't think it's hemp because over here on this little list, it says something about THC. So I don't even know what they're talking about when they come with these slightly detectable amounts that were in there. And this study, I remember seeing this study, and they said that there was detectable amounts of THC, and after the cows ate hemp. Here's the thing: if it even if it was maybe I guess if it was the flowers of a 0.3% hemp plant, and they ate enough of it that might put traceable amounts. And they said traceable amounts or detectable amounts. I'm sorry, detectable amounts. And again, that could have been a parts per million for that matter. But the fact of the matter is I'm like, wow, well, seriously, is that what they would have had to have eaten? Like CBD flower to get any THC in them. All right. The fact of the matter is that is not the hemp that we would feed cows or any livestock if we were going to feed them hemp. Good, best case scenario is, the little chart on the right there shows the amount of THC, and then what they did was they weaned them off of it, and they saw how long it took to get those down to negligible amounts. Again, only in the liver. So the highest one started out in the liver. That's where the most amount of THC was. Okay. I am sure that cow liver becomes food product. So maybe there's a little bit of an issue there. Okay. But the rest of it's pretty negligible to begin with. But once again, I want to digress by saying this is not the hemp we would feed the cows. And the most interesting part about that is they should know that because past studies showed that hemp biomass, okay, hemp seed, this is what's interesting. I don't know why this says this. Hemp seed, 2 words, and hemp seed meal. Oh, that's why it's hemp seed meal, okay, which is different than hemp seed, and I'll explain that, are suitable for and safe feed ingredients for cattle, lambs, and chickens. Now, we already know the chickens can eat hemp seed. Laying hens have been approved by the FDA. So laying hens are allowed to be fed hemp seed, and then their eggs are allowed to be sold at the market. And so this is the hemp that we would feed them. Now, I think when they say hemp biomass, I really feel like that would have to be the leaves. Okay, we're not going to feed the stalk to them. We're not going to feed them the herd. We're not going to surely not going to feed them the fiber. Um, the, but they get the hemp seed. Hemp seed has no THC. So if you just want to take hemp seed and throw it in with your grain that you're feeding your cattle, there's never going to be any THC to show up. None. And again, maybe parts per million. Parts per million. Which again, if you know the parts per million that's acceptable of a lot of things, then you surely cannot have any problems with having parts per million of THC. And then, so the hemp seed meal, that's what's created. We also call it cake, hemp seed cake. So that's what's created when you press the oil out of the seeds. So you take the big press and you press the oil out of the seeds. What's left over is what we call cake, and I think that's what they mean when they say meal. Once again, if any THC, parts per million. Parts per million. So, instead of having these studies about weaning cows off of hemp flour being fed to them, we truly need to do a study. All right, let's say it's hemp seed. So we're adding this amount of hemp seed to cow, and then at the end of the day, we're testing the milk and we're testing the meat to see what the THC is. Okay. We do another part of that study is hemp seed cake, and those cows, certain cows, only get hemp seed cake. And then of course you have your control group. Gets whatever they're feeding cows now. And once again, at the end of the day, you test that milk. You test that meat, test that liver, and see what happens. And again, it needs to be all these animals. And again, we need the chickens to stay in there for the meat part of it, so we can feed the chickens meat. I did a story about a chicken seller in, I think it was Thailand. And he pretty much in his own little study proved that feeding his chickens hemp made them larger. He got more weight out of the chickens when he began to feed them hemp. Okay, let's do some studies. Let's prove it. That protein content has to be good for this livestock as much as it's good for humans. Those omega-6 essential fatty acids, vitamins, minerals, all these things have to be as good for these mammals and chickens, birds. Um, I don't really know how that, and that should be part of the study. Does that increase the protein content of the milk? Does that increase the protein content of the beef? Are there more vitamins and minerals in that milk? Are there more omega-6, omega-3 essential fatty acids in that milk, in that meat? Because surely that's what you would want, once again, for your customers. The benefits almost have to outweigh the negative effects of not, but I get it. I mean, the chicken study on the laying eggs, that took at least 2 years. And they had to revisit twice. So they gathered all their data, gave it to the FDA. The FDA said, "Oh, we'd like to see a little bit more of this. We'd like to see a little bit more of that." So they went and did that. And then the FDA wants one more time, said, "We'd like to maybe see a little bit more of this, or a little bit more of that." They went back, they did it, submitted that paperwork. The FDA approved. It's been almost a year now that they approved hemp seed for laying hen livestock. So let's get more proof. That's the study I want to see on the cows. And obviously, I mean, now we know we can at least feed them that, and then we wean them off, and then eventually that stuff's good. But that's silly for milkers, honestly. You can't feed it to them every day. I mean, the cattle I can see. If you add that hemp and they get that nutritional benefit, and I don't know, once again, I don't know that nutritional benefit is in that flour, that CBD flour. That's low in, or what, CBN, CBG, whatever it may be, that's that low. And if it's a grain flour and they leave the seeds in, that's a whole nother thing. And so, weaning the beef off of that's easy, because that's, you can feed it to them for a couple years, wean it off of them a month, and then they go to slaughter. That one's not as, but you can't do that with the dairy cows. You're not going to feed it something for a certain amount of time and not be milking it. We milk dairy cattle every day. And that's why I think that study would be super easy. Because you just start feeding it to them, and then you just start testing that milk every day. And you do that for 6 months. And you get that data. The beef is going to take longer, because I really think you got to feed it to them. You probably have to feed it to them for at least a year before slaughter. I really think to get the results that would hopefully prove that there's no THC in that, and so there's no reason not to sell that to the market. Part of that is the CBD part. But of course, once again, they're not eating that CBD flower. They're eating the seeds from the CBD plant that are zero THC anyway. Don't feed your cow. I mean, you can feed your cows hemp flower and eat them. You just can't sell them to somebody else. Oh, I thought summertime. How about some coolers? So the top left-hand corner cooler is the Taiga cooler, and that's a decent-sized hemp composite cooler. They're not super cheap by any terms, but once again, hemp composite, all in all, when it's got to go into the landfill or whatever, if it does, it's just breaking down naturally. The one in the middle on the right, that is a camp cooler bag, and they call it gingham style. Yeah, I'm not kidding you. It's not gingham, but it's gingham. I want to do a hemp dance. I don't know what it is. Gingham style fabric. So this is actually kind of a proprietary blend maybe of material on that hemp cooler bag. And then the can holder one, and the can holder one has been around for a while. I may have even shown this on the show years ago, but that's a Mountain Smith, and I think it holds 8 cans maybe, sling style. But it's hemp insulated, and hemp is a good insulator, and so, and then those are decently inexpensive. So if you're looking for a new cooler, why not get a hemp cooler? I don't know why not. Hopefully you don't either. All right. So I recently saw a post online. Hemp is going to be in space, growing in space. And I was quick to remind everyone, or I'm going to remind everyone now, that I reported on hemp in space in 2017. This is actually the third trip that hemp has made to space. In 2017, it was Space Tango, okay? And they were testing the growing of hemp in microgravity and radiation. All right, now I don't know how there would be any radiation inside where they were growing the hemp, because that would seem not good for the astronauts one way or another. I never saw any results out of this, and I even went back and tried to find some results, and I never did. I found the original articles of when it was happening, but I never found anything to do with the results, which kind of pisses me off because this was done with public money. So we should, that information, and maybe I gotta go do a government search, I think. But I'm pretty sure this was a government project. I'm not positive. The second time that we sent hemp into space, it was part of when Front Range Biosciences did this. They were cell cultures, and they were trying to see what effect space had on the cell cultures. Again, have not found any results from that. Now the newest one, and this is, again, if there is one plant that you could tell me this is going to be, we're going to have a massive amount of on the Martian project, that was it. You fill that spaceship with mature hemp plants, growing hemp plants, and a lot of hemp seed. And I may be convinced that I want to go colonize Mars because it is the only thing, it's the only singular plant that can do everything that we need to do. If we find water on Mars, and supposedly there's ice, and so there shouldn't be water to be found, then we have food. We also have construction materials. I guess we got to figure out how to get the lime, or figure out if there's something on Mars that could act as that lime binding agent. Then we're building hempcrete structures on Mars. Dwellings. We need dwellings. Again, it's the only thing we can take with us besides a bunch of sand, a bunch of lime, but we can literally take it with us to grow it there. And so I think you're right. I mean, again, I don't doubt that we can grow it there. I mean, if there's water on Mars, then there is zero reason why hemp would not grow on Mars. That's it. I mean, and I think that's true with any plant. So again, obviously we're taking a multitude of plants on this journey, but the one we stock up on, the only one that's going to get us through an emergency, I'm talking emergency situations, is hemp. You get to Mars, the only thing that we need to keep sustainable is the hemp. Obviously, once again, we find the water. We can keep everything alive hydroponically, and everything's I think the issue is the water in space. But when hydroponically growing everything hydroponically, obviously you don't need the weight of soil, and that water is we figure out how to regenerate, whether it's making clean water out of our urine, which is obviously going to have to be part of this.
Yeah.
Okay. um, there's no, from my understanding, unless they're going to make a stop somewhere in between where there's water, or they think there's water, there's no water in space. We're not going to be able to collect water in space. We're not going to be able to collect oxygen. We might be able to collect hydrogen. I don't know. Again, I don't know all the science there. But I don't think you can collect oxygen in space. So we can't make water by collecting those chemical compounds. Once again, we have to have enough water to get us to Mars and sustain us for enough time to go find the ice, and then we just start melting it. But then we have to, we have to figure out whether that ice is made out of a liquid substance that's kosher. Most likely, it's gonna be, but what if there's something in that liquid that's not kosher? We have to know. We have to figure out how to extract it before we can use the water or the liquid, whatever it may be, for its general purposes. Again, I'm hypothesizing about all these. Like you said, I'm sure the studies and the simulations and all of that has been done. Um, and so everything goes great. Once again, the majority of the plants that we want to start growing will have to be, once again, hemp. And so we want everything else, but we want that to be because that's the one we can utilize the most for all of its benefits. And once again, if we only took one plant, which I realize is a ridiculous idea, that one plant has to be hemp. There is no other plant that can do it. There's no other plant that can feed, house, clothes, nothing. Nothing. Build hundreds of thousands of products at this point, or make hundreds of thousands of products. So that's hopefully once again they're going to figure out, and they're this project, Redwire's project, the newest one, and it's a commercially owned business, commercially owned and operated greenhouse is what they are. But they're going to study the growth of hemp from seed to maturity. And I have a feeling they're obviously doing a lot more plants, but the fact that they're including hemp at least shows that they're conscious enough to know that this is the one we actually want to make sure we can grow in space. And again, I think it will be super easy. Hemp grows towards the light, so gravity won't have anything to do with it. Most likely, you might have to tie it up as it gets taller because it may want to fall over. But I don't even think that's the case without gravity. Without gravity, it's actually going to want to grow tall. So I mean, it's like as far as the spaceship has, like a 20-foot high ceiling, we could grow 20-foot high hemp. All we really need is the lights and the water. 20-foot tall hemp, that's all the fiber we'll ever need. That's all the biomass we'll ever need for the hempcrete. And all the grain, that we may need, and that's instantly producing it. You take, I don't know how many pounds of seed you can get out of a plant. I don't know that. I'd be interested to know actually what kind of. Even if it's only a pound, if you've got 20 plants producing 20 pounds of hemp seed, that's a lot of nutrition. Okay, it's a lot of nutrition. It may seem like it's not, but that's a lot of nutrition. Once again, just 100 grams a day is an amazing amount of protein, vitamins, minerals, all those things. So this is hopefully we'll see more out of this because it's publicly funded. So I think if they have success, I can only hope they brag about it, and we can get out to the world. I think that starts a conversation like, why are they growing hemp in space? Well, here's a multitude of reasons. If not, because it's the only plant that can sustain life up there, possibly. All right, let's check out the new Nike Book Ones. I like these. These are actually a Devin Booker. If you don't know, Devin Booker plays for the Phoenix Suns. He was a Kentucky Wildcat. That's why it's super cool for me. Now, I'm still not 100% convinced that these actually have any hemp in them because it may be just the color. But I will say, because they mentioned canvas, that it really does look like that toe end side piece looks like that is hemp material. do a little research to make sure. Either way, so we can only hope. And then here is a set of the Morrow soft goods sheet set. Um, and so if you're looking for sheets, here's yet another brand. There's multiple companies out there. You know, as I've always said, when you're looking for anything you think you need, sheets or toothpaste or whatever, Google it and see if it's you can find it with hemp. You know, support it that way, and you'll be surprised how much you can just Google a product and hemp and what's out there. Because there's a lot. There really is a lot. So, my question is, did you get Josie Dog's pictures over? You did? Oh, I can't hear you. So I'm gonna.
Self muted. That was the problem. Yeah, I got them. I got the email after.
Yeah, I sent it in. I sent it when we were doing the when you were doing my What Are You Wearing Dog. So there's Josie Dog. We'll say this show is in memory of her. She was buried in that hemp jacket, and I wrapped her in her. I'm gonna tear up. I knew I would. I wrapped her in her hemp blanket, and she went and she had a hemp collar on, um, and we put her in the ground at 4:20.
Oh,
It just worked out that way, um, and so she was she was the lone studio audience for, I would say, 90% of the shows. She was sitting at my feet. You know, there's plenty of shows if you go back where she reminded us that she was in the audience, like halfway through the show. Um, and so she was my lone studio audience for at least, you know, up until maybe the last 6 months, and even when I was out in Indiana, because that's where she was, because she had trouble getting around. We needed her to be on one level. She was at most of those shows. So she really was a hemp dog through and through. Again, so everything from the jackets, collars, harness, leashes, blankets, pillows. Um, I feel like there was some other. Oh, toys. She had her hemp toys that she loved to destroy. There's her in one of her hemp scarves. Um, and treats, even hemp seed treats and CBD treats. And then, of course, the CBD tincture. And you know, the last 6 months, I gave that to her twice a day, just to help. You know, I mean, it doesn't cure anything, it doesn't stop anything, but I think it definitely gave her a quality of life. I think it helped her stay more mobile than not, um, and all those things. So I'm gonna miss her being. She was by my side. She went to work with me every day, and I'm gonna miss her. She was a pain in my ass too, but I am gonna miss her. She was truly a hemp dog, truly a hemp dog. She was in her hemp world. My hemp world was her hemp world, so of course she was a hemp dog, inside and out. She wore hemp almost every day as well, whether it was just her collar or towards the end she didn't, just because she couldn't run away, so she didn't have to have a collar. She was moving too slow, but you know, up until then she wore hemp almost every day. I'm gonna miss you, kid. Love you, Josie, the hemp dog. Josie the hemp dog. All right, we'll get through a couple events here and get everybody on their way. So the July 9th through the 11th, the Hemp Beverage Expo in Atlanta, Georgia is going on. Again, that's July 9th through the 11th, the Hemp Beverage Expo. July 11th through the 13th, and this is a new Hempcrete event. This is Hempstone's Hempcrete event, their workshop. This is in Monahawken, New Jersey. Monahawken, New Jersey. So there's the information. Do a screenshot, whatnot, if you need the address, phone number, all that stuff's on there, or all their information's on there somewhere if you're interested in that. Also on July 11th, you have the Hempcrete celebration and book launch from 6:30 to 8:30 at the Center for Maximum Potential Building in Austin, Texas. Hemp just got a huge reprieve in Texas. So it's definitely going to be a celebration, even though this is for hempcrete. Um, either way. You also have the July 15th through the 17th, the Global Industrial Hemp Fiber Summit in Raleigh, North Carolina. I think this is, again, we need more fiber summits. We need to have that discussion. Raleigh is the key to that. If you don't know, they are the largest growers. Well, I don't know if they're the largest growers, but they're the largest manufacturers of material in the United States. And so, um, and I do believe that they did. There is a hemp fiber processing plant that did open in North Carolina, or it was proposed to open. I might need to do a little research to see if that actually happened. And this was years ago that this was going to happen. Again, super intelligent move by whoever was paying attention to North Carolina and their material background and hemp and its fiber material benefits. July 25th through the 27th, we're almost there. The Stargazers Cannabis Festival. This one's going to have an interactive hempcrete workshop. I am going to do a hemp paper presentation. Hopefully, make hemp paper as part of that. And then I will also be speaking on hemp at this event. So again, that's in Waverly, Ohio. Waverly, Ohio. I can't do that. July 25th through the 27th, Stargazers Cannabis Festival. And this is all things cannabis. Again, this is, you know what I mean. It's legal in Ohio. I don't even know why I got to beat around the bush. And then in October, the 3rd through the 5th, this is one worth mapping out, planning if you need to travel to it. It is well worth traveling to, in my opinion. It's the Hemp Building Symposium by the Lower Sioux Indian Community in Minnesota. And again, they're growing, they're processing, they're building. They're doing it all. You will find very little opportunities to learn from anyone that has done it all. And so I think that all of that knowledge is well worth learning in one place, as opposed to having go and learn about hemp farming, learn about processing, learn about building with hemp. You can learn it all from experienced individuals. So again, that's why I give I have been giving as much advance notice of this one as possible, because it is well worth traveling to. I truly believe it. And if you've never been to Minnesota, it's beautiful in Minnesota. And there's a good chance, and I'm not positive on this, but these things usually correlate. There's a good chance that there will be a huge hemp field maze very close to wherever this is in Minnesota. Because every year and they are unique. They are different every year as to the pattern of the hemp field maze. And so, I might just start correlating once I start hearing more, because I might just take a drive to Minnesota. I've always wanted to do the hemp maze thing. I mean, honestly, I would just love to be able to just walk through a big hemp field, one way or another. Yes. I've actually not walked through a hemp field when the hemp was still alive. When we did our hemp tour in October of 2014 in Kentucky, and that was a 3-field tour. That's a total lie. The first field we went to was live. The very first hemp field I went and visited was a live field, and I don't know what I was even thinking when I said that. Now, it wasn't a uniform, but yes, I've done that. So just don't listen to me. I've done so much hemp stuff, sometimes I forget all the hemp stuff I've done. I pictured us because Josie was actually with us on that trip, and I have a picture of her walking through a hemp field where we were collecting the hemp in the field to be stacked into to be dried or retted. So, all right, folks. Well, thanks for watching today's High Noon Hemp Show. As always, remember, reduce, reuse, recycle. Make everything else out of hemp. Having temptations.
See y'all next week.